as a writer, I really feel that journals have a relationship with us. For me, so often journals give us our platform. They give us a space to be part of that larger conversation in creative writing, in the arts, and in poetry. And Alaska Quarterly Review has been a space for me as well. And so this is, yes, honoring them for their birthday, but also, it is a fundraiser as well. So every little bit does help, and we appreciate you, and I appreciate being part of this wonderful reading series. I'm going to read a few pieces, starting with a poem about really what's on my mind right now. I hope that you'll see that these poems are coming from an insistence of what must be on the page and what must be said at the moment. Used to be. The dead minks in Denmark make me think about language, the way we hide and package in sound bites. 15 million minks killed over COVID-19 infections. USA Today uses the words slaughter, then cull, while the article dances with images of furry zombies rising from graves, explained easily by rushed burials and shallow plots. The pandemic rushes and slows time and minds in unfathomable, superpower-esque ways these days. These days, another consideration of language. Unprecedented times. On social, I saw a joke posted. Could really use some precedented times. I wanted to laugh. The bridge between want and fruition collapsed for me in June 2020. I'm still hunting for a contractor, magician with the tools to repair a damage I don't fully understand. We used to be all right. We used to be okay. We used to hug and hold and greet friends with double kisses on cheeks, shake hands, pull babies not ours into our arms the shape of cradles, eat pozzoli with spittle flying from our tongues and boisterous laughter amid dim lights of a packed restaurant, dance with our heat and sweat pressed to a stranger, lover, one and the same for the night, fuck in back alleys on planes, on swaying decks near boathouses, clasp hands and lines to create bodies as roadblocks, bury our dead, and weep into shoulders of loved ones with only our mourning and not thoughts of saliva or transmission, and we knew what the face of our deceased looked like before burial, before cremation, and we celebrated the life taken from us too soon, too soon. We used to be all right. We used to be okay. We used to be. Neuron fire, or I want brown and black and queer joy to be ubiquitous, or what we're made of connects us, fuck, or I'm writing this poem when I should be out protesting, so this poem is a protest instead. I wonder about vulnerability and visage, how my third metacarpal smacks into wood and the purple's surface skin long before tender, before my eyes package up the scene for nerve cells to detect, in a type of mystery only cells talking solves. I carve a love poem to my body inside the skull, in hopes all eyes roll back far enough to read my inscription in shitty penmanship. In maturation outside the womb, to explain our thinking means a study of brain chemicals, electrical signals, neurons as neighbors, cityscapes under flesh. Our thoughts propagate in neuron fire. Waves of waves of waves, signals of us, compounds and coalesce. Peel us back to reveal a galaxy of burning, hydrogen and helium and churn of nuclear forges in our guts. heaven held in the pinpricks of pinpricks. My body a constellation of elements, of stars gone supernova, transient and astronomical my atoms. Stellar explosion gives me assemblage in a last evolutionary stage before dying. Meditations on flesh. An ulcer develops inside my lower lip, in crevice of gum line. The translucent milky gray pox oral mucosa landscape of dark pink. And I remember my flesh incubates. A home for a short-lived tenants, involving a kind of thought come to life in the mouth, carrying the acts of membranes and cells. What haunts the body sometimes haunts from interior vantage. The ground squirrel in California chews on rattlesnake skin, spits out the paste to apply on its body. A confused rattlesnake smells its own deadly, hesitates at the familiar venom. I look in the mirror and think of all my jaws chew and spit out. I both predator and prey. How language thistles on my tongue and stick to flesh laid bare, pulmonary artery and expose from lick. Environment changes us. In the Alden Motel, stray cats brought fleas, my ankles swollen and torn from indentations of my own nails. Dust mites caused allergic fits, stuffy nose, watery eyes, lack of smell for weeks on end. Nudibranches change skin coloration by changing diet. Octopi camouflage their bodies when threatened. Octopi swim fast in open ocean. Butterfly wings contain eye spots, circular patterns to resemble the eyes of larger animals, to confuse and misdirect with disruptive coloration. The monarch butterfly uses aposematism to ward off prey. Sometimes we hide, sometimes illuminate to keep ourselves alive. The polar bear's physicality acts as prism. Black skin under translucent fur reflects the sun to only appear white. In art, black contains the presence of all colors. In physics and spectrum, the opposite. To understand the human condition, we must acknowledge both theories exist simultaneously and in tandem. When my mother warned, if you touch the monarch's butterfly wing, she'll never return home, she dies. My finger already on the wing. Too late to release, too early to understand the lie. My left knee contains asphalt from a childhood bike accident. 3 kids on one dirt bike and a serious hill. My brother held my chin in his palm to the top of the hill. Don't look down. Only when I saw the blood, I cried. Only when I saw the blood, I felt the rip and sear of missing skin. Blue-green scar plumps and circles, itches when cold, itches long before the rest of my leg. Biochromes absorb and reflect certain wavelengths of light. Octopi harbor these microscopic pigments to change color and patterns and even opacity. To be able to see inside, become more sheer. If our skin melts transparent, if our inner workings expose, blink and glow like moon jellyfish in deep ocean, would we see each other, feel our connectivity, or sour that too? National Geographic tells me a rhyme on how to remember what snake patterns to be cautious of. Red on yellow kills a fellow. Red on black won't hurt Jack. The lines catch and repeat in my mind. In summer 2020, a Starbucks barista asked the white woman to wear a required mask. She attacked him. His friends raised $1,000 in GoFundMe. The woman sued for half. Red on yellow. In seeing maggots on a deer carcass, my skin crawls as I watch their bodies writhe in and around each other, squirm in compost. Fly larvae, to be exact. Wikipedia says the word maggot doesn't exist as a technical term or an etymology. Perhaps my reaction stems from misunderstanding. Perhaps the heap of bodies clangs a bell, reminds me of love, a closeness gone missing. And I have one more piece to share tonight, and because I am reading with Peggy and Moria, I'd like to dedicate this to us as women, and to all women who are listening tonight. Chris Martin sings Shiver, and I Shiver, a poem for Madam Vice President. This poem isn't for Coldplay, or rock and roll, or the Honda speakers, or the 275 on-ramp to Dayton, Ohio on November 11th. This poem isn't for Martin, isn't for the way his stool shook at the First Avenue Club, where I touched his foot, sweaty palmed and sweaty breasted, before Apple, before Madison Square, and mouthed, "This Coldplay's gonna be big." This poem isn't for my grandfather or his "you'll never amount to anything" gutturals, his "you dirty spick, waste of sperm," pupils in spit at my brown body, my brown irises. This poem isn't for the associate provost who pulled me into his office after the 2016 election saying, "We liberals will always be disadvantaged, Felicia, because we're unwilling to do horrid things to win." After asking me about my undocumented family, after asking, "You're Mexican, right?" This poem is not for his damaging white liberalism. This poem isn't for the playground splashed with my blood after being punched in the face by the kid a grade above me and fucking taco in his saliva. Isn't for the asphalt, the snicker, or that kid, all those kids. This poem is for Kamala Harris, Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. This poem is for my little brown body between my grandfather and the television, alert and still, not running away, a demand to be seen. This poem is for my moon boots, thrift store gems, and the tip of the right boot in that kid's groin. This is for my mother. This poem is for my mother, who wrote 9 children's books in the 80s and not one accepted for publication. This poem is for the bear that changes colors, glasses for Tommy Tiger, Betty Butterfly's strange mirror, and the author's signature, Linda Zamora. For the reason I became a poet, to write a poem to Madam Vice President, to say the word possibility and believe it. This poem is for the trillions of false litanies to women. You can't X, can't Y, don't Z, don't X, cunt, you shouldn't Y, you shouldn't X, fuck off, you don't belong, don't get your panties in a bunch, let me mansplain X, relax, it's just a joke, you wanted this. May this match burn these all down. This poem is for women. This poem is for trans women. This poem is for queer women. This poem is for Black women. This poem is for brown women. This poem is for Truth and Tubman and Parks. This poem is for Dove and Hooks and Sanchez. This poem is for Anzaldúa, Baez, Cisneros. This poem is for women. This poem is for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. This poem is is for how Martin sings Shiver, and I shiver at your smile the night the electoral votes hit 290 blue. I see my face in your smile, all the faces of history. I shiver for history. I shiver for my smile inside your smile. I shiver for the necessity of shivering long overdue, shivers of shivers. This poem is for the guzzle. This poem is a guzzle because it's a worldview. We stitch the stars down to earth now. We stitch the stars deep inside the soil of us, cells, saltwater guts. We stitch with hair and wishbones for eyes, stitch until fingers bleed, and then we stitch on top of the stitches. We taught ourselves to sew. We taught ourselves out of invisibility, the difference between the shadow cast and the body, and yet part of the body, and how a shadow means a body exists, a body in light. Step in, dear sisters. Step in. Thank you.